beep, 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 beep. Welcome, ladies and gentle beings, to the court of the Edijester. How are we today? I hope that everybody's okay. First off, Warrior Teacher, we're starting in February. I put the adverts up when they started going up. Please do come and join us. It's the only way I can keep going. So, if some of you want to come along, we're having a great time. If you have questions, you can ask them online of the Warrior Teachers. You'll see a few are posting the advert that I put up. They're more than happy to answer your questions about what they've learned and what we've been up to. So I think that might be interesting. But I wanted to approach something today because I've been asked to by a couple of people. I don't normally comment on things like this on my videos, but it just seems so important that I couldn't really not do it. And that's what's going on with Rotherham and with these accusations against people. And it's a very, very difficult topic because it is so rife with emotionality and rightly so. The horrific treatment of these young girls by these men is something that none of us should be able to sleep well about. And I'm certainly one of those people who can't. So I was intrigued to go digging and find out a bit more. And I came across a post from Marjorie, or Leaky Likey, on Twitter, which I've got some details from that I thought I would go through this morning with you just to try to understand. But before we do that, let me give you some idea of where I'm at with all this. I'm sick to death of hearing about it. Is this type of man? It's not this type of man. I don't care about what's thought to be or not to be a correct way to see this that is being perpetrated by the woke. I don't care. All right, let me tell you why. If there is a word that I could do away with in the English language right now, that word would be community. I think the word community has been and is being weaponized by the wokesters. And I think the reason that they're doing that is because they don't understand there's only one community, and that is the community of British people. That is it. When we look at these types of things, and particularly what's happened here in Rotherham, as I was interested to see yesterday, I wanted to remind myself of a similar situation where something similar was uncovered. Was in the film Spotlight, which I watched. I thought, I'll watch it again. Remind yourself, Barry, what is this? What happens in this type of thing? Because Spotlight is an extraordinary piece of filmmaking in which the uncovering of the Boston child abuse scandals in the church, the Roman Catholic Church at the time. This was in 2015. Strangely, it was released, I believe, the same time as this report I want to talk to you about today. And to look at what happened there with the investigative journalists and the fantastic work that they did. Spotlight was the name of the team that worked for the Boston Globe at the time. And the fantastic work they did in uncovering this, not just the fact that there was mass abuse of children by men of a particular demographic. That's the word. Forget the word community. They were of a particular demographic, and that therefore that demographic needed looking at. It was an extraordinary revelation that led to opening the floodgates of what came to be a global phenomenon, which to this day is still, I think, not been dealt with or not been given the right attention it needs. And I feel that we have the same thing going on here. If we uncover and we find that there is a demographic that seems to have a particular problem, we must, as we do always when it comes to safeguarding, the primary lens through which we see this, be aware that that demographic needs looking at. And we should be looking for causation and correlation. What exactly is going on with that demographic? Is there something in that demographic's makeup? Is there something in that demographic's behaviors that links them, that's causing this? Because there's two things here. You often see child abuse will manifest, particularly it will manifest anywhere you have a loophole, anywhere. That's why when it comes to the wokesters, safeguarding is the primary lens, because they're the ones that let queer and trans into everything. So safeguarding is the primary lens, okay? So think about it this way. Child abuse can manifest in many ways, and we've seen it a lot of times in kind of cult-like behaviours, particularly in America. But these cults get together and ends up the bloke who led the cult is sleeping with every single person he can. And that really is a cult-like behaviour, which is fundamentally different in terms of its makeup and its size to something like the Catholic child abuse scandals, where there was mass child abuse, or with the history of the Satanic Panic, in which the child abuse accusations were made, and many of them were true, but many of them were also false. It went terribly wrong. So this is really where we're at, isn't it? It's trying to understand that this is not a cult-like behavior, because there doesn't appear to be any cult we can point the finger at. This is a demographic that has got a problem. It doesn't matter whether the demographic is people who managed to wheedle their way into social care back in the 1980s, whether it's the Catholic Church that where they had priests that they just moved on, who could constantly abuse children, or whether we've now got a situation where it's Pakistani men or people in the Asian constituency or whoever it may be. I don't care about community. I care about the demographic. And when I say that, that's not because I want people to go out and beat the crap out of them. It's because I want people, including that demographic, to understand that there may be something at play here. Because it's not manifesting in a cult-like way with an individual leader who is sleeping with everybody. What it's manifesting as is what I think is an important term, is I think it's probably a genuine psychiatric phenomena. I think it's a genuine, and we need to look at what that psychiatric phenomena is. And by that I mean, there's something that's been built into these folks that makes them think this is okay. And we need to look at what that phenomena is, wherever the hell it is. I don't care if it's Lutheran people. I don't care if it's Caribbean people. I don't care. What I care about is there a match between that demographic and a causal or a corroboration? What is there? Where is it? We need to find it. And we all need to work together to find it, including that demographic. Something is wrong somewhere, because that's the two differences to me. It's either isolated geographically generally with this kind of cult, or it's more widespread, as for example is trans and the grooming of children online to become trans. So we've got these huge problems, all of which come under one headline and one headline only: safeguarding. Right? Okay, safeguarding. I think we are now in a situation where there is nothing else that we can do except ask for a public inquiry, which takes in everything. Because it should be a safeguarding public inquiry, because it's failed across the board. And we need to understand why. How has it failed? Why? Now, here I've got for you a look at a report from January 2015 by Louise. It's only a quick look. I've got the images are on my Substack, so if you want to go have a closer look, do. I'll put the links in the doobers as usual. So let us begin. Terrible things happen in Rotherham, and on a significant scale. Children were sexually exploited by men who came largely from the Pakistani heritage community. Not enough was done to acknowledge this, to stop it happening, to protect children, to support victims, and to apprehend perpetrators. Okay? Upon arriving in Rotherham, these, I thought, were the uncontested facts. My job was to conduct an inspection and decide whether the council was now fit for purpose. This was looking at the council, what had happened. However, this was not the situation I encountered. When I reached Rotherham, instead I found a council in denial. They denied that there had been a problem, or if there had been, that it was as big as it was said. If there was a problem, they certainly were not told. It was someone else's job. They were no worse than anyone else. They had won awards. The media were out to get them. So this is why, making a judgment as to whether Rotherham Council is fit for purpose today, I have set it in the context of how it was behaved in the past and its reluctance to deal with past failings. Does that sound familiar? This reluctance to deal with past behaviours, or reluctance to deal with a revealed truth, is something that is happening now. That there are safeguarding failures across the board in schools, in the NHS, safeguarding failures across the board that are currently going on in various ways, but none of them more dangerous and more insidious than we seem to be seeing this happening with these gangs of child rapists. I recognise, said Louise, that child sexual exploitation is hard to tackle. It is complex, sometimes thankless, and very hard to get it right. But it is vital that public services face up to the difficult tasks. However, Rotherham Council is a place where difficult problems are not always tackled as they should be. When faced with the solid findings contained in the report it had itself commissioned by Professor J, it did not accept them. And without accepting what happened and its role in it, it will be unable to move on and change. There's more for you. The links are in the doobers. Go and have a look, please. I'm full of cold, folks, by the way. This is why I sound a bit croaky. Go and have a look at the doobers. Go and do some research on your own. I've got the link to the full report of Rotherham. It's worth reading, because what we are seeing constantly in these cases, in what happened, for example, with Rotherham here, is a denial that there's anything wrong. And this denialism is being driven by suicidal empathy. That's the only thing to call it, really. Suicidal empathy. So I would suggest that you go and have a look, go and see what it is that I've put together for you, and maybe you let me know in the comments and let everybody else know on Twitter underneath this video. What do you think? Because I think what we have is a mass denial going on everywhere, but the language that we're using is not appropriate for what we need to do. It is a safeguarding issue. There is only one community, but we identify demographics that are a problem, and we, the collective we, try to understand what it is that's caused that so we can prevent it from happening again. It's going to take cooler heads than mine to get this done. I can tell you that now. And I've seen a lot of people screaming a lot of stuff at everybody. Fine, do that. Feel free. It ain't going to get us nowhere. Until we understand why certain demographics are actually going to behave in a certain way. And it doesn't matter what that demographic is. It just happens to be the demographic at the moment is Pakistani men. That happens to be the demographic that we need to look at. Because I watched Maggie Oliver talking and she says it's still going on. I think it probably is still going on. Are there other things what you do it? Yes, there are. But this is a particularly difficult one because from our perspective as a country, the British people, what we've got is a situation whereby we're importing this problem if we're not careful. I don't care about community. I care about demographic. They shouldn't be liaising with community leaders. The police should be doing their job and examining exactly why one particular demographic at this particular time in history is a huge safeguarding risk, but still not taking their eye off the ball when it comes to other huge safeguarding risks. It's a collective failure, folks. Well, at least that's what I think. But you can tell me in the Dubras, as I'm sure you will. Come be a warrior teacher. I'll see you later. Ta-da!